Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. In the void between stars, where light itself seemed to be a distant memory, an ancient beacon pulsed weakly. Its signal, once strong and vibrant, had faded over the millennia, reduced to a whisper in the cosmic expanse. The last remnants of a mighty civilization, the ancients, had perished long ago, their worlds turned to dust, their once great empire a forgotten legend. Yet, in their final moments, they had made a desperate gamble, a gamble that would echo across time and space to a small, blue planet teeming with life, Earth, 2372. Humanity had long since left its cradle, spreading out among the stars, colonizing planets in neighboring systems, and developing technologies that had once been the stuff of dreams. The United Earth Federation, a coalition of planets and colonies, stood as a testament to human resilience and ingenuity. Yet, for all their advancements, there remained a sense of unease, a lingering fear that they were not alone in the universe, and that whatever was out there might not be friendly. Aboard the Odyssey, a deep space exploration vessel on the fringes of human-explored space, Dr. Sarah Carter stood before a holographic display, her brow furrowed in concentration. A strange signal had been detected, a signal that defied analysis. It was unlike anything they had encountered before, a pattern so complex that even the ship's advanced AI struggled to decipher it. "Captain Hale, you need to see this," Dr. Carter called out, her voice tinged with urgency. Captain Marcus Hale, a tall, imposing figure with graying hair and a stern expression, stepped forward. He had seen his share of strange things in his years of service, but something about this signal unsettled him. "What is it, Doctor?" Hale asked, his eyes narrowing as he studied the display. "It's a signal, sir, coming from an uncharted star system. But it's not just any signal. It's ancient, and it's directed at us." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "This is no random transmission. It's as if someone, or something, wants us to find it." Hale's jaw tightened. "Set a course for the source of the signal. Inform the crew that we're heading into unknown territory. I want all systems on high alert." The Odyssey slipped through the darkness of space, its engines humming softly as it made its way toward the mysterious signal. As they approached the source, an uncharted planet came into view, shrouded in swirling clouds of gas and dust. Orbiting the planet was a massive structure, an alien megastructure, its surface covered in strange, glyph-like symbols that glowed faintly. "By God," whispered Lieutenant Alex Torres, the ship's chief engineer, as the structure filled the view screen. "I've never seen anything like it." "Neither have I," Hale muttered, his eyes fixed on the structure. "Dr. Carter, any idea what we're looking at?" It's some kind of archive, maybe a data repository," Carter replied, her voice tinged with awe. "But it's ancient. The technology is far beyond anything we've ever encountered." As the Odyssey moved closer, a beam of light shot out from the structure, enveloping the ship in a warm, golden glow. Alarms blared, but before anyone could react, the light faded, and the ship's system stabilized. "Status report," Hale barked. "All systems nominal, sir," Torres replied, his fingers flying over the console. "It seems like the structure scanned us." Dr. Evelyn Song, the ship's communications expert, suddenly looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the structure. It's in English." "Put it on the main screen," Hale ordered. The screen flickered, and the image of an alien being appeared. It was tall and regal, with elongated features and deep, glowing eyes. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent hue, and its voice, though otherworldly, was calm and measured. "Greetings, descendants of the ancients," the being said. "You have found what was lost. The legacy of your forebears lies within you, dormant, waiting to be awakened. But beware, for others know of your heritage and will seek to claim it for themselves." The image faded, leaving the crew in stunned silence. "Descendants of the ancients?" Dr. Carter repeated, her mind racing. Could it be that, we're related to these beings? It's possible, Song said, her voice shaking. The signal we detected, it's a key. A key to unlocking something hidden within our DNA. Before anyone could respond, the ship shuddered violently. On the view screen, another ship appeared, sleek and menacing. It was unlike any vessel they had encountered, clearly of alien origin, but with a predatory design that sent a chill through the crew. "Captain, we're being hailed," Song said, her face pale. On screen, Hale commanded. The image of a Zorian appeared, tall, with sharp, angular features and eyes that burned with malevolence. The Zorian's voice was cold, dripping with disdain. "Humans, you are in possession of something that does not belong to you. Surrender your ship and the knowledge you have acquired, or be destroyed." Hale's eyes hardened. "We will not surrender. If you want what we have, you'll have to take it." The Zorian's lips curled into a cruel smile. "So be it." The battle that followed was swift and brutal. The Odyssey was outmatched by the Zorian ship's advanced weaponry, and despite the crew's best efforts, the situation grew increasingly dire. With shields failing and hull integrity compromised, Hale made a desperate decision. "Prepare to abandon ship," he shouted. "Dr. Carter, take the data we've gathered and get it to Earth. The Federation must know what we've discovered." Carter nodded, her heart pounding. She and the remaining crew members scrambled to the escape pods, launching into the void as the Odyssey fought its last, desperate stand. The escape pods streaked toward the planet, the Zorian ship hot on their trail. As they entered the atmosphere, the pods scattered across the surface, with Carter's landing in a dense forest. She stumbled out, bruised and shaken, but alive. The planet was eerily silent, its skies tinged with the glow of a distant sun. Carter quickly activated her distress beacon, hoping that rescue would arrive before the Zorians found her. Days passed in a blur of tension and fear. Carter and the other survivors, including Captain Hale and Lieutenant Torres, regrouped and set up a makeshift base in the ruins of an ancient city. It was here, in the shadow of colossal stone statues and crumbling temples, that they began to piece together the truth. Through their research, Carter discovered that humans were indeed the descendants of the ancients, a race of warriors who had once ruled vast swathes of the galaxy. The ancients had been unmatched in their mastery of both technology and biology, able to manipulate their own genetic code to enhance their abilities. But as their empire crumbled, they had placed their hopes in one final act, encoding their legacy within the DNA of a distant, primitive species that would one day carry on their fight. "We have to find a way to unlock this potential," Carter said one night as the group huddled around a fire. "If the Zorians know about our heritage, they'll stop at nothing to wipe us out before we can become a threat." "But how do we do that?" Torres asked, his voice tinged with desperation. "We're scientists, not warriors." "We may not be warriors," Captain Hale said, his voice steady, "but we can become them." The group set to work, using the knowledge they had gleaned from the ancient archives. With limited resources and time running out, they began experimenting on themselves, attempting to awaken the dormant genes that lay within them. The process was dangerous, and there were failures. Some of the survivors succumbed to the strain, their bodies unable to handle the changes. But for those who succeeded, the transformation was extraordinary. Captain Hale was the first to fully awaken. His senses sharpened, his reflexes became lightning fast, and he found that he could channel energy through his body, forming weapons of pure light. Others soon followed, each developing abilities that had once been the hallmark of the ancients. As the days turned to weeks, the Zorians intensified their efforts to find the humans. Patrols scoured the planet, and it was only a matter of time before they would close in on the survivors' location. With no other options, the newly awakened warriors prepared for a final stand. The battle that ensued was fierce, a clash of ancient power and alien technology. The humans, now fully aware of their heritage, fought with a ferocity that shocked even themselves. Captain Hale, wielding a blade of light, led the charge, cutting through the Zorian ranks with a precision and strength that defied explanation. Dr. Carter, who had awakened her own abilities, used her enhanced mind to outthink the enemy, coordinating attacks and setting traps that turned the tide of battle. Lieutenant Torres, now able to manipulate machines with a mere thought, hacked into the Zorian systems, causing chaos within their ranks, but the Zorians were relentless, and their numbers seemed endless. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a brilliant light burst from the heavens. The ancient beacon, reactivated by the battle, sent out a surge of energy that washed over the battlefield, filling the humans with a renewed strength. In that moment, they were no longer just humans, they were the living embodiment of the ancients, their power fully realized. With a final, desperate push, they drove the Zorians back, their foes retreating in terror before the might of these newly awakened warriors. As the last of the Zorian ships fled into the void, the survivors stood amidst the ruins, breathing heavily but victorious. The cost had been high, but they had won. They had proven that humanity was not a species to be trifled with, that they were, in fact, the heirs to a legacy that stretched back to the dawn of the galaxy. In the aftermath, as they prepared to return to Earth, Dr. Carter reflected on what they had discovered. The truth about their origins would have to be kept secret, at least for now. The world was not yet ready to learn of the ancients or the potential that lay within every human being. But she knew that one day, when the time was right, that knowledge would be shared. Humanity would need it, for the Zorians were just the beginning. As they boarded the escape pods for the journey home, Captain Hale placed a hand on Carter's shoulder. "We did good, Doctor. But this is just the start. There will be others out there who won't be so easily deterred." "I know," Carter replied, her gaze fixed on the stars. "But we'll be ready. We've unlocked the potential within us, and we're only just beginning to understand what that means. The Odyssey may have been lost, but its mission had succeeded in ways no one could have imagined. The echoes of the ancients had awakened, and with them, humanity's destiny had changed forever." The journey back to Earth was a tense and quiet one. Dr. Sarah Carter, Captain Marcus Hale, and the remaining crew of the Odyssey found themselves lost in thought, the weight of their recent discoveries pressing down on them. The vastness of space stretched out before them, the stars a constant reminder of how small they were in the grand scheme of things, and yet, they had just uncovered something that could change the course of human history. Carter stared out of the small viewport in the escape pod, her mind racing with the implications of what they had learned. The ancients, an advanced civilization long thought to be a myth, were real, and their legacy lived on within humanity. The genetic link that tied humans to these powerful beings was both a gift and a curse. They had awakened something within themselves that was both exhilarating and terrifying, and now, they had to decide what to do with it. The other survivors were equally silent, each grappling with their own thoughts. Captain Hale, ever the stoic leader, was already thinking ahead, planning for the inevitable confrontation that would come when they returned to Earth. The Zorians were out there, licking their wounds, but they would return. And when they did, humanity would need to be ready. The escape pods entered Earth's atmosphere, and the familiar sight of the blue planet filled their viewports. As they descended, the crew received a transmission from the United Earth Federation, demanding to know what had happened and where the Odyssey was. Hale responded with a brief and guarded explanation, citing a catastrophic encounter with an alien force and the need for immediate debriefing. The Federation would demand answers, but the full truth of their discovery would have to be handled with care. They touched down in a remote part of the Pacific Ocean, where a Federation retrieval team was waiting to escort them to a secure facility. As they disembarked, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They were no longer just survivors, they were the bearers of a secret that could alter the fate of humanity. Once inside the secure facility, they were separated for individual debriefings. Dr. Carter found herself in a stark, dimly lit room, seated across from a high-ranking Federation officer who eyed her with a mixture of suspicion and concern. "Dr. Carter," the officer began, his voice low and measured, "you and your team have been through quite an ordeal. We're going to need a full account of what happened out there." Carter nodded, her expression neutral. "I'll tell you what I can. But some of what we discovered, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered before. The officer leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Carter took a deep breath. We made contact with an advanced alien civilization, the Zorians. They attacked us, but before they did, we uncovered something, a link between humanity and an ancient race known as the Ancients. Our DNA is partially derived from theirs, and this connection, it allowed us to unlock certain abilities. The officer's expression shifted from suspicion to disbelief. Abilities? What kind of abilities? Enhanced strength, speed, cognitive functions. The ability to manipulate energy in ways we didn't think possible, Carter explained, choosing her words carefully. We've only just begun to understand what we're capable of. The officer sat back in his chair, his mind clearly racing as he processed what she had said. And these Zorians, what do they want? They see us as a threat. They know about our connection to the Ancients, and they fear what we might become if we fully unlock our potential. They tried to destroy us to prevent that from happening. The room fell silent as the officer considered her words. Finally, he spoke, his tone grim. This information is classified, Dr. Carter. The Federation will decide how to handle it. In the meantime, you and your team are to remain under observation. We can't afford to let this get out, at least, not yet. Carter nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The world wasn't ready to know the truth. Not yet. Days turned into weeks as the survivors were kept in isolation, their every move monitored by Federation officials. They underwent countless tests and evaluations, the Federation scientists eager to understand the changes that had occurred within them. For Carter, it was a frustrating experience. She wanted to continue her research, to delve deeper into the mysteries of the Ancients, but she was trapped in a gilded cage, her every action scrutinized. Captain Hale, meanwhile, spent his time training, pushing his newly enhanced body to its limits. He knew that the Zorians would return, and when they did, humanity would need every advantage it could get. He drilled relentlessly, honing his skills, his mind always on the coming war. It wasn't long before the Federation began to see the potential in what the survivors had become. The military brass, always looking for an edge, started to talk about creating a new breed of soldiers, warriors who could harness the power of the Ancients. They began drafting plans, envisioning an army that could defend Earth from any threat, alien or otherwise, but not everyone was on board. Within the ranks of the Federation, there were those who feared what this could mean for humanity. Unlocking the potential of the Ancients was one thing, but what if it went too far? What if the power they unleashed couldn't be controlled? These fears led to heated debates and secret meetings, as factions formed within the Federation, each with their own ideas about how to proceed. In the midst of all this, Carter and her team found themselves caught in a web of intrigue and power struggles. They had been thrust into a world of politics and military strategy, far removed from the scientific exploration they had once pursued. The knowledge they had uncovered was both a gift and a burden, and they had to be careful how they wielded it. One night, as Carter lay awake in her quarters, staring at the ceiling, she received an unexpected visitor. Dr. Ethan Kane, the controversial geneticist who had been brought in to oversee the Federation's research into the Ancients, appeared at her door. His expression was unreadable, but there was a fire in his eyes that set her on edge. "Dr. Carter," Kane began, stepping into the room, "we need to talk." Carter sat up, wary. "About what?" "About the future," Kane replied, his voice low. "The Federation is planning to weaponize what we've discovered. They want to turn us into soldiers, tools for their war machine. But that's not what this is about. This is about evolution, about pushing humanity to the next stage. We need to think bigger." Carter frowned, not liking where this was going. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that we don't wait for the Federation to decide our fate. We have the knowledge, the power. We can take control of this ourselves. Imagine what we could accomplish if we weren't bound by the Federation's rules, if we were free to unlock the full potential of the Ancients." Carter shook her head, her voice firm. I'm not interested in playing God, Dr. Kane. This power, it's dangerous. We need to be careful. Kane's eyes narrowed. Careful? That's what the Federation wants, to keep us on a leash, to control us. But this isn't something that can be controlled. It's our destiny, and if we don't embrace it, we'll be left behind. Carter stood up, her expression hardening. I won't let you put humanity at risk. We've seen what happens when power like this is misused. If you try to push this too far, you'll only create more enemies. Kane stared at her for a long moment, his jaw clenched. Finally, he nodded, though there was a coldness in his gaze that sent a shiver down Carter's spine. Very well, Dr. Carter. But don't think for a second that I'm giving up on this. Humanity's future is at stake, and I'll do whatever it takes to secure it. With that, he turned and left, leaving Carter alone with her thoughts. She knew that Kane wasn't bluffing. He was a man driven by ambition, and he would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. The question was, how far would he go, and what would the consequences be? The tension within the Federation continued to build, the factions growing more entrenched as the debate over the Ancients' legacy raged on. Meanwhile, Carter and her team struggled to navigate the shifting landscape, trying to hold on to the ideals that had driven them to explore the stars in the first place. Then, without warning, the Zorians returned. The attack came swiftly, catching the Federation off guard. A massive Zorian fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system, far larger and more powerful than the force they had faced before. The Federation scrambled to mount a defense, but it was clear that they were outmatched. As the Zorian ships closed in on Earth, panic spread through the population. The Federation's leaders called for calm, but the reality of the situation was undeniable. They were facing extinction. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Hale gathered the survivors of the Odyssey. They had trained for this moment, honing their abilities, preparing for the day when they would have to stand and fight. Now, that day had come. We know what we're up against, Hale said, his voice steady as he addressed the group. The Zorians are back, and they're not going to stop until they've wiped us out. But we're not the same as we were before. We've awakened something within us, something that the Zorians fear. We are the descendants of the Ancients, and we will not be defeated. The group nodded, their resolve hardening. They had come too far, learned too much, to back down now. As the Zorian fleet approached Earth, the newly awakened warriors launched a desperate counterattack. Using their enhanced abilities, they fought with a ferocity that surprised even the Zorians. Captain Hale led the charge, his energy blade cutting through the enemy ranks, while Dr. Carter coordinated the defense, using her enhanced mind to outmaneuver the Zorian forces. But the Zorians were relentless, and their numbers seemed endless. Despite their best efforts, the Federation's forces began to falter, the weight of the Zorian assault pushing them to the brink. Then, in the midst of the battle, a strange energy pulse emanated from the ancient beacon on the planet where the Odyssey had made its fateful discovery. The pulse washed over the battlefield, filling the awakened humans with a surge of power unlike anything they had experienced before. In that moment, the warriors of Earth were transformed. They became more than human, embodying the full potential of the Ancients. With this newfound strength, they pushed back against the Zorians, turning the tide of the battle. The Zorian fleet, caught off guard by the sudden surge in power, began to falter. Their ships were torn apart by the energy blasts that the awakened humans unleashed, their advanced technology no match for the raw power that had been unlocked. As the last of the Zorian ships was destroyed, a cheer went up from the Federation forces. They had won, against all odds, they had prevailed. But the cost had been high, and the victory was bittersweet. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth was left to pick up the pieces. The Federation, once so confident in its dominance, now faced a new reality. The knowledge of the Ancients had changed everything, and there was no going back. Dr. Carter stood with Captain Hale, looking out at the ruins of the Federation's command center. The world they had known was gone, replaced by something new and uncertain. What do we do now? Hale asked, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "We rebuild," Carter replied, her gaze distant. "We've unlocked something powerful, something that could either save us or destroy us. We need to be careful, to use this knowledge wisely. But more than that, we need to be ready. The Zorians were just the beginning. There are other threats out there, and they will come for us." Hale nodded, his expression grim. "Then we'll be ready. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As they turned to leave, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the start of something much larger. The echoes of the ancients had awakened, and with them, humanity's future had been forever altered. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and dangers they could not yet foresee. But as long as they stood together, they had a chance to carve out their own destiny among the stars, guided by the legacy of those who had come before.